Betting on sports can be hard, but hiring Morgan & Morgan is easy. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They have over 100 offices nationwide and more than 1,000 lawyers. Their fee is free unless they win. For more information, go to forthepeople.com/bestbets or dial pound law, pound 529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/bestbets. This is a paid advertisement.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Back at it, baby. Follow the money. Adam Chernoff now. Double shot, Simple Handicap podcast. Raz picks as well on the Progressive guest line. Going to go rapid fire here. Week 17. First off, appreciate the time. Happy holidays. Happy New Year, my friend. Do we have weather on the Northeast? Do we have wind? Do we have rain? What's the scenario? What are you seeing in some of these games with weather?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of weather throughout the week, a lot of rain forecasted as well. It varies in severity because there's not a lot of wind. And so you have games like Denver-Cincinnati where it's a very scattered shower forecast, but then you go into games like Atlanta-Washington, New York-Buffalo, as well as a game like Miami-Cleveland, where you have the potential for 90% plus rain throughout the duration of the game, and the accumulation of the rain is very high as well. And so those are a handful of games this week that we're going to see impacted to the extent with rain where you could see these totals come down as we get into Sunday. We just saw Miami-Cleveland get hit heavy to the under as that forecast got a lot worse. And we're seeing the Jets and Buffalo kind of stuck in between, but trending down as well. So potential for about 3 or 4 games on Sunday to have really big rain impacts, and then a few others to kind of have secondary impacts from it.
All right, walk me through the middle game tomorrow, Cincinnati and Denver. Denver wins, they're in. Peyton's been great as a road dog. Peyton's been great on extended rest. As I said earlier, Cincinnati 0-7 this year against teams with a winning record. What do you think here? And if you could grab the hook, and the hook's available in some spots, at least it was. What do you think of this one, Cincinnati here at Circa's Lane 3?
Yeah, grab Denver plus 3.5 minus 120. Available at almost every sports book out there. That Circa price is very sharp, and I think is going to represent what we see as we get closer to kickoff tomorrow. We might even get to a flat 3 minus 110. As you mentioned, the extra rest matters, but also just matchups on field matter here a ton. Bo Nix has been his best all season when he's kept clean in the pocket. This is a very, very good Broncos offensive line, and without Hubbard and without Rankins, the two really only pieces on the Bengals D-line that have done anything all season, with those guys out, I mean, the expectation for a Bengals pass rush or to be able to generate pressure here is incredibly low. And I think about the Bengals the last couple of weeks and the backups and rough offenses that they have faced. It's really going to look a lot different from the Broncos offense on tomorrow afternoon. So this is a game here where I think the Broncos operate comfortably on offense. And I get that Burrow is going to be playing catch-up, but Riley Moss back in the secondary is going to allow Surtain to travel with pace a little bit more. And it's a game where Denver is absolutely going to do what they can to keep that offense on the sideline by running the football. To me, it's just a good spot here for the Broncos plus 3.5.
The late game, you are paying a huge tax on the Rams because of the playoff scenarios and win likely to clinch the division, and then the strength of tiebreaker. Was 7 to 6.5 at Circa, but 7's available. The look-ahead line was 3. What do you think of Arizona and the Rams?
Yeah, tough one. And you mentioned it exactly right. There is a big tax here to pay on the Rams at 6.5. And anytime it's touched 7, there has been some buyback on Arizona. I would love to be able to get there, Paulie, but I can't do it because the matchups here for Arizona, I mean, it's just brutal on field. You think about both starting tackles are going to be missing from this game. You have both running back 1 and 2 in the backfield banged up and dealing with injuries. This may turn into a game where Michael Carter ends up getting a ton of reps depending on how the injuries work out the next 24 hours. And so it's also Kyler Murray playing behind an O-line where he struggled a ton this season under pressure. And where is he at mentally coming into this game? They kind of looked checked out in a way against Carolina, falling behind early. Now they're eliminated. It's a good Rams pass rush that has had to play outdoors in weather the last couple of games and now returns home where they've looked a lot more comfortable at times this season and certainly have a big advantage up front. But on the other hand, you're going to get a Rams team that is going to run the football a ton with Williams. This is a big game for them where they can clinch the division. Is it going to be one where they're willing to take a lot of chances late and try to extend this margin, or just get away with a win any way that they can. I mean, I think about so many times in important games where McVay gets very tight late in games, and you're now laying a pretty big premium here on LA, given the circumstance and the situation, that I can't get to it. And so I think this is a pretty hefty number. Would love to find the way in for Arizona, but with these injuries and matchups, I just can't.
It seems to me there's a great history late in the season when two bad teams play that the games go over and they're high scoring. Do you think that's the case with Tennessee, Jacksonville, and the total of 39?
There has been a very good recent history of that, and it's really kind of been exaggerated more so when it's teams with elements of desperation attached to it. This doesn't fit into that, but to me here at 39 currently, this is a very short total that I'd love to go over when I'm looking at 39. Tennessee made the change to Mason Rudolph. It's about a 10% success rate bump for the Titans offense compared to what they had with Will Levis. So you have a much better opportunity to move the football and score. And we saw them last week chasing a big deficit. All of a sudden, the offense looked a lot better, too. So you kind of have it both ways here against a very bad Jags defense. You have the Ridley revenge factor. You have Chigo Kwankwo, who's emerging as a target with Rudolph going up against one of the worst defenses defending tight ends. A lot of positives here for what the Titans want to do on offense with such a short total. And then the Jags with Mac Jones don't sound like a great over partner, but against this Titans defense, which placed another starter on IR this week, I think they can do their share and make up this part of the total too, with the way that Thomas has been emerging as an elite wide receiver against the Titans defense that's trended poorly, so many different metrics the last couple of weeks. To me, this is a really short total here at 39. I'll play the over.
Got it. Very good. So I don't know what to do here because Rattler came in and looked good and almost rallied the Saints against the Washington defense. What does that say about the Washington defense? Maybe that doesn't bode well against Penix? And then they come out and they were awful and couldn't do anything against the Packers on Monday night. So now you got Carr out, Kamara out, Rattler again, Raiders who blow the draft pick, but excited and talking trash about we're not here to lose games. We're not worried about draft picks. Raiders lane 1 in New Orleans. Walk me through this one.
It's ugly. I'll take the Saints here, +1. So the way I'm looking at this is I do think Spencer Rattler's numbers are a little bit suppressed from what they can be. He's played Todd Bowles and the Bucks. He's played the Broncos, who are highly motivated in that revenge spot on the short week. He's played Jesse Minter and the Chargers. A lot of those games came without any skill position players supporting him. And then he played the Packers in Lambeau on Monday Night Football in a bad spot for them as well. You mentioned the Washington game where he looked somewhat, moderately competent, but he's had a couple games here. Like, it's been brutal defensive opponents on the other side. Now he faces a Raiders defense that's certainly a step down in class without Crosby, that's a little bit more in his weight class, if you will. But I also kind of not only expect the better offensive performance from the Saints overall, but I kind of think about the coaching scenarios here for both sides. As you mentioned, the Raiders, after the win last week, the monumental win against the Jags, has them smoking and drinking and celebrating post-game in the locker room. Monday Night Football, Darren Rizzi, the interim head coach for the Saints, gets embarrassed. And he has been openly talking about how these last few games are his chance to get elevated into a higher role with another team next season. This is the final home game for him. It's very much an audition for him. I think for him and this Saints team, this game matters a little bit more than what you're getting from the Raiders coming in off of the victory as well. So in a true coin flip game that is virtually meaningless on both sides, I think it matters a little bit more to the Saints here. So I like them here +1. I don't think we see Olave, but I do think we get MVS back on the field.
Follow the money. Paulie, Mike Palm, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch back Tuesday. Adam Chernoff, our guest. Simple Handicap Podcast, Right Angle Sports on the Progressive Guest Line. Happy holidays. Get the VSiN Watch app. Okay, Carolina, Tampa Bay. We know the first meeting. Carolina blew it. Should have won the game. Hubbard with the big fumble late. Ton of injuries in this game, both sides. Walk me through this one. Tampa laying 8.
I think Tampa Bay is worth a look here, laying 8. As you mentioned, it is a bigger number. In the first meeting, this game was played in Carolina. The Buccaneers were laying 6.5. Was very tight late, and they were lucky to get away from that one. But as I look at the Carolina Panthers and what they're dealing with this week, not only do the injuries on offense matter, Chuba Hubbard, less than 100%, Xavier Legette, less than 100%, O-line dealing with issues too. But for the Panthers defensively, Josie Jewell is going to miss.
Yep.
You're also looking at J.C. Horn, who's been fantastic and just key in that secondary. He is going to miss. You also have Smith Wade, who's the nickel corner. He's going to miss. There's all of a sudden just a bevy of injuries for the Panthers on the defensive side of the football. And so in a game where the Buccaneers, obviously they're paying the tax, it's a must-win spot for them, but they don't have the luxury of knowing what Atlanta does because that Atlanta-Washington game got flexed late. And so to me, this is a game where not only is this Todd Bowles defense going to have a good matchup against a banged-up offensive line with the Panthers dealing with injuries to weapons, but I think about Mayfield and this offense operating against this Panthers defense, whose only prayer all season has been some of these guys in the secondary playing well above what they're capable of. Now with those guys hurt and those key names down, this is a game where the Bucs at home in an all-in spot, I think, win and run away with this one and cover the 8 points at home.
They had no answer for Evans in the first meeting. He gashed them.
Zero.
Yeah, right. And now they're forced to throw to him here, which could be a positive with Otten out and Shepard out.
Absolutely. And with these names down in the secondary for Carolina, this Panthers defense that struggled all season is going to look a whole lot worse on Sunday.
Okay. Double shot coming up. We'll get to the big matchups. Green Bay, Minnesota, the Sunday night game, and the big one Monday night as well. And again, it's right there for the Vikings. Monday night's going to be huge as well. And then if Tampa wins, you know Atlanta's got to have it as well with the Sunday night game and a good game, as you mentioned, Adam, with the flex against Washington. 3 games left. We'll hit those coming up next on VSiN Follow the Money and get Adam's thoughts and some more props as well. Good card and a good way to close Week 17. More with Chernoff coming up.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Great props coming up. Saturday games, Sunday games, and you can find the Cowboys plus money at DraftKings. Longest made field goal in that matchup against the Eagles as well. Double shot with Adam Chernoff. Right Angle Sports and Simple Handicap Podcast. We'll get some more picks and props here as well. Did you hedge? Because you gave this out in August. It was a beautiful call. Have you hedged on your Allen MVP ticket?
$0 hedged, and I'm holding it. I think that he's the deserving winner so far to date. I think that's going to hold through the next 2 weeks, and I believe the adjustment that we have seen now was more of a correction than it was an adjustment. Allen was out to like minus 800 or whatever.
Yep.
Like, it was a ridiculous price a week ago, and that's not a reflection of reality. That was just hype that we saw. And during Christmas Day on the games, as Lamar was playing, I mean, that number was dropping down like crazy. And so I think where it is now is more reflective of what we've seen and what we likely get from the voters. Interesting commentary from Allen this week. He said that the Bills' offense has been intentionally holding back plays, and they have not been running their best stuff as they're trying to save that for the playoffs. I'm curious what they do the next 2 weeks, especially now with KC locking up the 1 seed. Would imagine they rest guys next week. So is this week the last chance for Allen to make that push, kind of make his stance? My argument against Lamar is that he's had a lot of big games to pad his stats against a lot of really bad teams, and I think that's skewing some of his numbers. So I'm not hedging. I'm letting it run, and hopefully Allen at 9-1 comes through.
Even Adam, if you know that it's announced that he's not going to play the final game against the Patriots, if that comes out early next week and they're locked into the 2 and they announce Allen's going to rest, do you at that point hedge a little if Lamar's playing, or are you that confident?
I'll probably let it run, Mike, honestly. We've seen other guys win MVP sitting the last week in spots where they haven't had to go the full season, and it's happened recently too. And so I'm going to let it go at this point because I think the voters are going to skew his way. But you're right that there is some concern in that.
You mentioned the movement with the under crashing weather, and also Hill and Waddle banged up from Miami. The other late game, Green Bay and Minnesota. Big matchup. Little surprised at the line. What do you make of Minnesota at home here? They've been hot. Darnold's been great, and Minnesota trying to get the 1 seed.
Yeah, so obviously huge game for Minnesota. They're in a matchup here against Green Bay where they're probably going to have to rely on Darnold a little bit more than having him bailed out a little bit by the run game, as the Green Bay Packers defense has become quite a lot better against the run in recent weeks. I think there's a little bit of noise in the Packers schedule, given some of the competition that they have faced over the last month. A couple backups, a couple non-starters, a lot of injuries have worked in their favor. And so there is some noise in some of this defensive improvement, but I really think that we're going to see the Vikings need a big game from Darnold in a spot where he can attack a secondary that is still down a couple key guys. And on the other side, I'm very curious to see this Vikings defense, if they can step up and get some stops against the run. The Green Bay has relied on it a ton, and it's really kind of taken away from some of the issues that Love has had under pressure so far this season, with Christian Watson banged up and more so of a longer shot to play than he is guaranteed to play in this game. I think the Packers really need to desperately get out to a lead early, because this Vikings defense, top 5 against the run this season, but they've also played with a lead more than any other team so far this season, which has alleviated some of the issues they might have stopping the run. It's a true coin flip game at this point. I don't have a take on the side of the total, but certainly a game where it's pretty vital for Minnesota to get a lead and keep throwing the ball with Darnold.
Adam, I agree with you. I think getting Ivan Pace back for the Vikings to stop Jacobs they're going to make Love beat them and hope that he turns the ball over like he did in the first meetings. Your thought on how big a role Pace will play?
I think it can definitely bolster what they've perhaps struggled with at times this season. Don't really trust the defense overall if we see them having to play from behind. I think that's something that makes me a little bit worried about the Vikings into the playoffs. But this is a spot where they can probably get away with it again at home.
Sunday night, Washington laying 4 at home against Atlanta. Penix goes on the road. I know you've been had some good calls here going against Atlanta in that defense. But what do you want to do in the Sunday night game?
Yeah, I'll back them here +4. I think the 4s are going to get taken out. I think this closes.
There's a 3.5 here.
-20.
Yeah, good. It's 3.5 here. Yeah.
Yeah, these 4s are going to disappear probably as the day goes on and into tomorrow. So I think this closes 3 -20 in favor of Washington at home. Honestly, these two teams have been power rated pretty well dead equal for the last 2 months, and now we're seeing Washington out to more than a field goal at home, and I don't buy that. Kirk Cousins was playing at a bottom 5 quarterback level in the league.
Yeah.
And so whatever the take is about Penix last week, if you're just looking at the box score and you're saying, well, these numbers weren't overly impressive against the Giants defense, it's hard not to say that they weren't better than Cousins. And if you're somebody that's looking at the takeaway from a lot of the film experts this week is that Penix looked very poised in the pocket. He had 5 key drops, and the Pitts turnover in the end zone was absolutely not on him. And so if you're buying into that at all, which I am, how is this not a game where Atlanta is upgraded going into Washington against a bad defense that's going to be without their best cornerback in Lattimore? So to me here, Atlanta at 4, it's too much. These two teams are basically dead equal, and to get to more than the field goal is giving Washington a ton of respect. A prop I would add here as well, Paulie, Mooney over 53.5 receiving yards, as we see Drake London getting the tougher matchup from Washington corners. This is going to be a game where Penix looks to Mooney a couple times downfield. So if you can get 53.5 right now, that would be a look I would take. If
you like what you saw out of Penix, would you look at the over in this game then, Adam, at 47.5? Are you factoring that in if you're confident in Penix going against this defense and Daniels going against that defense?
The only reason I have not bet that over is because of the forecast. And right now, as we talk on Friday afternoon, there is a band of rain in the forecast that's 85% with serious accumulation that tapers off around 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. So there's a lot of uncertainty about what the weather impact for this game is going to be, and that's the only reason I have not bet the over. But I agree with you completely that based on what we saw and based on Washington's inability to get stops over the course of the season, certainly want the over here if the weather is clear, but this is a total that might come down a little bit yet with that forecast.
One more 2.5 minutes. Monday Night Football. They've been playing games with this up to 4, 3, back up to 3.5. Lions on the road against the Niners. What do you think?
Well, to go from 2.5 on the look ahead now to, at times, as you mentioned, as high as 4 is a pretty big overreaction as it's sitting here. The reason that we're back and forth on this is because so much ties into what happens in the Green Bay, Minnesota game. There is nothing about Dan Campbell in his seasons as head coach of the Detroit Lions that leads me to believe that he is going to sit and rest guys. He had a quote last season that was saying, the guys are going to rest when the season is over. For now, we're playing everybody. And I think he follows that same mentality in this game. But it is hard not to look at the fact of what might set up next week for the division, for the 1 seed, with the loser dropping down a long ways into a much more difficult matchup, and then have this game as Detroit on a short week going into that on Monday night in San Francisco. Everybody's going to be looking at this game as the Lions need it more than anything. The 49ers don't need it at all. It's meaningless. And this is a number probably like we saw with Seattle yesterday, get bet up as we got closer to kickoff. If Minnesota wins, this game is probably pushing up towards 4.5, just like we saw last night. And at that point, it's too much. So it's very much a wait and see. I could never get to laying this number with Detroit, and that would especially be true if we see this pushed up a little bit more in a similar manner to what we saw last night. So
Okay.
Waiting and seeing on this one. But, yeah, that's how I stand here.
Very good. What do you do if it's Flacco and not Richardson?
If it's Flacco and not Richardson, we're going to see the Colts pass rate spike. We've seen Flacco start a couple games for them, and 3 of the 5 starts got into the 50s. And so that'll change Indy to going down, throwing the football a ton. Deep shots will have a lot more accuracy. I mean, if you get the news that Neighbors starts Sunday morning and he's going to play, I don't know how you're not looking at over 40.5 in this game.
Yeah.
But we don't know who's starting at QB for Indy, and we don't know what's happening with some of the Giants' skill guys. So that's, again, a wait and see for me. But I could only look over if Flacco starts.
Very good, my friend. Appreciate it. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy the games this week.
Here you go.
Happy
Adam Chernoff
holidays.
on the Progressive Guest Line.
They might combine the U.S. and Canadian economy. Big news there. They're sitting on all that oil.
They have lost 10 in a row, and it's a 1-9 ATS run for the Giants. If they lose, they're the first team in history to go 0-9 at home for a season. Who's going to that game? Who would want? Oh, boy. And that's...
Who are they taking? They taking Shadur, number 1?
I don't know. People on X say it won't happen. They're not going to do that. You don't want the circus. And
They don't want to deal with Neon?
I know. That's an interesting discussion. They could be Hunter. Who knows? But they're doing it the right way. But certainly they are embarrassing themselves week in, week out. A ton of props coming up Saturday, Sunday, high, low. Give me the dough. All that coming up next. VSiN, Follow the Money, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
You'll like one of them.
We're live. We're
bet
live.
this time.
We're live. Hold on. Gonna close strong here. Back on Follow the Money. Told Mike Somich to come heavy. Mike Paulman as well. He's here on Monday as well. Mitch is out back Tuesday. First thing first, 35-13 Vandy in a bowl game. Minus 18.5 in play, 54.5. The total now is they opened up a can here against Georgia Tech. And the final earlier today, Navy beat Oklahoma. How you doing, Mr. Somich?
Doing great. I'm doing great. I am looking forward to this NFL weekend. This is my dream here. I love standalone games because I love being able to play player props in game, and we get that
Yes.
opportunity with 3 tomorrow. We've got the Monday night, the Sunday night game. So love this NFL slate. Looking forward to it. And then I'd love college bowls as well. I don't bet a ton of them before the actual game starts, but in game for college bowls and being able to kind of look through, okay, who's in, who's out,
Right.
and try and get in a little ahead of it. You can get some pretty good lines even on game day in these things.
I thought that was a good. Sorry, Mike. I thought that was a good angle with Arkansas State.
Yeah.
Just figured they couldn't stop the rushing attack, and they were going to be in that game.
I actually think that even though with all the uncertainty, the end game is really interesting. When you come out and you see who competes, how do they match up, and like you could just start betting the over in that Kansas State-Rutgers game last night. Just keep hitting it. At every venture, you'd have never booked a loser if you did just bet over at every commercial break or whenever you could.
And that was an interesting one because Kansas State rush defense so good during the regular season, and we saw they came out and they were just not interested on defense, and you knew that the Kansas State offense would be able to get it going at some point. And when you have that defense playing the way it is, like you said, it's an easy one to pop the over button in game.
Before we get started, Paul, I do have to ask Mike this. I know you do this and that. You bet some horses here, you bet some college here, some NHL, but next Saturday night at 7 o'clock when it's over, when the season of the contest show is done, how are you going to adjust your life? Because this has been a focal point for you now for 4 months, what you and Matt Brown have done documenting this Survivor throughout the year.
It's going to be kind of sad. Right. I mean, it's a lot of fun to talk about Survivor week in, week out, look at who people have left, how you're going to adjust to that, and then be able to talk about some of these people on the show, some of the stories that we get, and hear from Jeff and Derek what's going on behind the book on some of these NFL games too, which I think is really valuable on that show. So I'll shift my attention to college basketball. Where else are you going to go, right? I mean, you get the college basketball slate, to me, really officially starting when you have these conference games that kick off. It's when I like to start betting college basketball because you have a lot more knowns than unknowns like you do early in the season. So once the NFL season winds down and you've got those contest shows that are over, for me, it moves to college basketball.
Over, under 5.5 teams selected Saturday.
This week? I will go over. I think we're going to have quite a few teams that are selected with just kind of some of the jockeying for position here in the last couple weeks. We're through the holiday weeks now. We got quite a few people left. And there are a lot of different options on the board as well. I could see people going to 7 to 8 different teams here. So I think we'll go over 5.5.
Interested to see if the one person that is Washington available uses them, because you know where you stand with the late game. Ready, set, bet, and also the contest show, which you must watch Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on VSiN. Okay. In 7 years, I've never seen a guest have this many bets, and I'm not complaining.
Wes Reynolds has never been a guest on your show?
This is not. This okay. So we'll go out to Santa Anita coming up as well, and you might, if we have time, we'll sneak in some hockey. So you mentioned this, and you're right, with the standalone games and the triple header tomorrow. Number one, Chargers side and a couple props. Take it away. I'm picking up what you're putting down here.
Yeah, let's go Chargers minus 4.5. This game opened at 6. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then it got down to 4 at one point. This is a Chargers team that I think has a lot of advantages, and you'll catch that from my prop plays as well. It's a Patriots rush defense that has been not very good, 24th in the league and yards per game. They've given up 160 yards per game on the ground over the last 3 games as well. It's 28th in the league. Dobbins comes in here with a 56.5 rushing number. We'll go over there.
Yes.
This is one of those situations when he went on IR. They talked about how he didn't need to go on IR, but because it was Dobbins and they wanted to make sure he was fresh heading into the late part of the season, they were going to send him there. Not surprised he's coming back. I don't have a big injury concern there. And look, my guy Ladd McConkey is playing. He's been one of those receivers that I have really leaned on this year from a prop perspective, and it's paid off. He's getting to the higher point of his numbers here at 72.5, and I am a little concerned that the Chargers end up in a run-first setting here in the second half. But when you look at what McConkey does against man coverage, he's top 10 in the NFL according to PFF versus man coverage. His target share goes up versus man coverage. New England plays the second most man coverage in the NFL, almost 40% of their snaps. It's just too good of a matchup for McConkey here, who also is going to avoid their number one cornerback because he doesn't travel. He plays on the outside. McConkey gets a lot of snaps from the slot. I think Ladd McConkey has a chance to have a big game here. I think the Chargers cover.
All right. McConkey over. Dobbins over. Chargers cover. I'm with you with the Chargers as well, and Dobbins should have a big game. Middle game, Brown over receiving yards, and let's ladder.
Yeah, look, Chase Brown here, he has been great from a all-purpose yard perspective the last few weeks. He gets rushing yards, gets receiving yards, but then you take a look at this matchup here with the Denver Broncos. This is just a great spot for Chase Brown to be able to have success from a receiving perspective. It's a Denver team that loves to blitz, loves to play man coverage behind him, and you have Patrick Surtain manned up with their number one wide receiver in Jamar Chase. That means the targets have to go somewhere else. Chase Brown's gone over 50 yards in 3 games this season, including 3 of the last 6. His receiving prop at just 27.5 yards. Let's take Chase Brown over 27.5 yards and ladder him up to 50 yards or more. That's a plus 300 number. I think it's a shot for a huge day here against the Broncos.
Okay, what does McBride do in the late game?
He feasts. This is man versus zone, right? This is a team that you're going to see a lot of zone against for this Arizona Cardinals team when you talk about the Los Angeles Rams. And with them constantly in zone coverage here, McBride gets the opportunity to be able to get more targets in this situation. His target share goes up. And we saw him last week have his worst game of the season. Feels like a situation where they're going to want to feed him in this spot here. You can get over 6.5 receptions for plus 100. So I'm looking for receptions, not yards here. I think McBride gets 10-plus targets in this game. He'll catch at least 7 of them.
All right, let's get nuts. Let's get aggressive, and I'm with this one, too. It didn't work out Monday, but they fell behind, and the game plan changed as well. Miller, rushing yards against the Raiders.
Yeah, Kendre Miller, man. He had the opportunity 2 weeks ago, and we saw Kamara go down late in that game. He had the most carries in that game. Last week, you called it. Look, the game script didn't play into it, and because of that, we haven't seen an adjustment from a player prop rushing total perspective here. Sitting at just 40.5 rush yards right now for Kendre Miller against just a putrid Raiders rush defense that specifically struggles against outside zone runs. Well, guess what? That's what the Saints want to run here. So I think Kendre Miller gets quite a few opportunities on these outside zone runs. I'll ladder him up all the way to 80 yards here in this spot. The 40.5-yard mark is his regular number. We'll go over that. 60-plus yards, plus 225, and 80-plus, plus 550 for Kendre Miller.
That's awesome. That's aggressive. Now, I think Taylor has a huge game against the Giants, but you're attacking it in a unique way.
I am. Look, I want to play the over on Jonathan Taylor rushing attempts. I want to look at the rushing yards, but they're just ballooned up at this point, right? We're seeing it at 100-plus yards on the rushing side. You're seeing it 23.5, 22.5 rushing attempts. Give me the longest rush for Jonathan Taylor here. It's at 18.5. He's gone over that total in 7 of 12 games. 2 of those games that he did not go over against the Lions and the Vikings, which were both negative game scripts. He got just 11 and 13 carries in those 2 games. This Giants team is 31st against the rush. In the last 3 weeks, they have allowed 12 explosive run plays on the ground. Let's go with Jonathan Taylor over 18.5 yards for his longest rush.
All right. This also creative. How about a running back matchup? Head-to-head here.
My favorite bet of the week.
Okay.
If you can find this one out there, I would lay a lot more than 11.5 yards. This is my favorite bet of the week. It's available over on DraftKings. Bucky Irving, minus 11.5 yards versus Chuba Hubbard. First off, let's just talk about the game script here. You've got an 8-point favorite for the Buccaneers. They're most likely to run the football more than the Panthers because of that. On top of that, let's just rewind here back to the first matchup. Bucky Irving goes for 125 rush yards. Chuba Hubbard goes for 43. So just slightly covering that 12-yard advantage that you need. Carolina last against the run in the NFL. Tampa Bay is the 10th best against the run in the NFL. If you want to shrink that window down, just the last 3 games, Carolina averaging 208 yards on the ground. Tampa Bay averaging 51.3. So let's go Bucky Irving minus 11.5 rush yards against Chuba Hubbard.
I haven't looked at that before. How much matchups do they have? A lot of them? A lot of options?
Usually you'll see wide receiver 1 versus wide receiver 1. You might see the tight ends against each other, and you'll usually see the running backs against each other as well. And there are certain scenarios where, like, I like Bucky Irving's over at 81.5, and I like Hubbard's under at 70.5. But I would rather play the 2 against each other just because of the upside I see with Irving and the bust side I see with Hubbard.
Okay, 2 more props to get to.
When do we need to give you a race out? In this segment or the next one?
Let's do it. Let's do it in this one.
Yeah, Paul. He said at the end of this one.
It's going to go off.
Okay,
it goes
thanks,
off
Mike.
here.
What? Somebody's got to host the show. Somebody's got to host the show, all right?
I thought he said the start of segment 2.
The end of the first segment.
Okay.
So we're going to head out to Santa Anita here. We're going to go to race number 8. I don't like playing favorites.
Okay.
But I do like the favorite in this spot quite a bit. Cooey, the 1 horse here. It's a Bob Baffert trainee. You like the name, don't you, Mike?
Yeah, I do like the name.
It's a solid name there with Cooey there, the 1. Bob Baffert trainee, even money, first-time starter. There's a lot of buzz around this horse. So this is going to be one of Baffert's very, very good horses. I want to look for value, though. So let's play an exacta colt here. 1 with 3. Scoozy, the 3 horse here. Mark Glatt has been absolutely on fire at Santa Anita. Very good with first-time starters. Very good with 2-year-olds. And the horses that are getting bet in this race, the 5-horse Surf Song and the 7-horse McKechnie, both have run before. I wasn't overly impressed, and they're not really good second-time out trainers as well for those 2 horses. So let's try and find a little value here. The 1 Cooey over the 3 Scoozy, 12-1 right now for that cold exacta.
Ooh, that'd be a big cash. All right. Good work, Mike. Thanks, Mike, as well. Up next, 2 more props, 2 sides, 2 totals. Close strong. VSiN, follow the money.
VSiN.
We have a situation here in the bowl game, 35-13 Vandy, but it's a weather delay, and it hasn't gone the distance. So, oh, mama. Hold on to your hats here. This is interesting. Go ahead.
Mike Palm rules real quick.
55 minutes.
Most
Must play
cases, right?
55. Yep.
Yeah,
Good
we
job.
got 7:17 left in the fourth, so
All
we
right.
have 2 minutes short.
Paulie Howard, Mike Somich, Mike Palm, Mitch out back Tuesday. Want to become a sharper, better this holiday season? VSiN has the ultimate gift for you or the sports better in your life. Take advantage of our holiday special. Get VSiN Pro access, everything we offer through May 1st. Just $79. Every best bet, every host, every guest. The betting splits from DraftKings and Circa. 24/7 video access. And the betting guides make this holiday season unforgivable. The gift of smarter betting. VSiN.com/subscribe. Okay, let's stay with the Tampa game. No Otten, no Shepard. Evans went off in the first game, and McMillan's been big of late. They're going to need him. McMillan, 40.5.
Yeah, McMillan, one of those situations where you clearly have seen him become the number 2 wide receiver inside of this offense, going for 50 or more yards in the last 3 games. You mentioned we're missing multiple key pieces here for the Bucs offense, but even more than that, Horn has been playing well for this Panthers defense on the outside. He is going to get Evans, and they're going to roll safety coverage over the top on him as well. That means that you're going to get a positive matchup here for McMillan. I was surprised this was sitting at just 40.5 receiving yards. I realize his numbers haven't been great from a season-long perspective. He's averaging sub 40 yards a game. It's why you're seeing it so low. But because of the last 3 games and how we've seen Baker get more and more comfortable with him in this spot, I think it's a pretty easy target for him to get over. So we'll go over 40.5 receiving yards here for McMillan in that Bucs
All right.
game.
I think Tennessee-Jacksonville could be wild.
It could be fun,
I think it's got the potential here. By the way, if you check the prop analyzer, Rudolph 4-0 to the over with completions. What do you think? You've been on Thomas many times.
I have been on Thomas many times. Brian Thomas Jr., one of my favorite guys. I talked about him in the draft process where I thought this was really a 4-headed monster wide receiver in this draft, not 3, with him being right up there with those top 3. And that's been paying off here this year. He has absolutely exploded the last 5 weeks. Since we saw Mac Jones come into the lineup, he has been clearly the go-to guy in this offense. The last 4 games, he's gotten 10 or more targets, gone over the 77.5 prop he has in this game in every one of those. Now you get a Tennessee defense that's just not very good. It's a pick'em game. You would assume you're going to have a pretty general game script here, so you're not in a situation where you're not going to be throwing the football. And Mac Jones, like I said, just peppering him with targets. If he gets these opportunities, and they're not just short ones, they're long balls as well, he should be able to go over that 77.5 number. We laddered him up on the website last week up to 100 yards. He went for 138. I would go back to 100 here on the ladder if you want as well. You can get that at plus money. But like Brian Thomas Jr. over again this week at 77.5.
Okay, let's go Jets plus 10. Sell me here.
This is an anti-Bills play. First off, this is a Bills defense that is not good. I mean, they gave up 40 points against the Rams. They gave up 40 points against the Lions. Last week, they probably should have lost to the Patriots. Now you got a Jets team coming in here, and Josh Allen in press conferences this week talking about how they weren't pulling out all the stops, that they were literally holding their punches because they're saving the quote-unquote good plays for the playoffs. Now they can't get the number 1 seed. They're more or less locked into this 2 spot here. I just don't think you're going to see a huge effort here from Buffalo. On top of it, we've got a weather situation, which doesn't help from a scoring perspective on the Buffalo side. I looked at Ray Davis props in this game. It feels like he's someone who will be inserted more into the lineup if you do have a Buffalo team that isn't as worried about winning the game and is more worried about health. So I'll take the 10 points with the Jets here. We saw this get up to as high as 10.5 and get bet down consistently. I don't think we're going to kick off in double digits for this game, so I think we're getting ahead of the line move as well.
Michael, let me turn this into a Survivor question for you based on your play on this game. If you had the following teams available in Survivor, who would you take? Eagles, Bills, Colts, Bucks, Rams. Who would be your Survivor play this week?
I would go with the Bucks. Of the teams that you mentioned, they're the only one that actually needs to win. Right? The Rams can lose this week, still win their division. The Bills can lose this week, doesn't really make a big difference for them. The Eagles can lose this week, not a huge issue for them. The Bucks have to win to keep this South dream alive in the NFC. So I don't subscribe into the points moves that we see. In a lot of these games, you'll see the team that has to win or the team that is more quote-unquote motivated move 2 to 3 points off what we originally would have focused on if it was just a numbers perspective. I think that matters more when you're in something like Survivor than it necessarily does against the spread, because this is a Bucs team that should be highly motivated at home and needs the game against a Panthers team. Well, yes, they've been frisky in covering. I'm not as worried about them being able to pull out the upset.
So I have Bucks plus 270 to make playoffs. So I took the 8 in this spot. Try to middle it and be a little bit of a hedge.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Bucks are the best team in the division. I think if you ask around to the possible 5 seeds in the NFC, who do you not want to be that 4 seed? It's the Bucks. I mean, you'd much rather play Atlanta than the Bucks in Tampa.
Think about if, let's just say Minnesota and Green Bay are the 5 and 6. One has to go to L.A. and play the Rams, and one has to go to Tampa. There's no gimmies on this NFC side, I don't think. Even though these teams are going to have 13 wins and be like the college football playoff, be the be favored on the road, so to speak. I think they're tough spots.
The gimmies Atlanta, if they somehow get in, right? That's the layup. Because even if, let's say, the Seahawks end up winning the West and it's not the Rams,
all right,
I would still much rather end up playing Atlanta.
Very good. Digging deep here. Mike made the case, 6-1 lowest scoring team. Browns team total under 15.5. Going to be weather.
There's going to be weather, but more importantly, there's DTR. There's only a few times in your life you'll get to fade certain people in the NFL because they are so bad that you know they're probably not going to start again. This is probably one of the last times we'll be able to bet against DTR in some way inside the NFL. And this Miami defense is one that should be able to stop a pretty vanilla game here from Cleveland. Right now, your team total, depending on where you shop, anywhere from 14.5 to 16.5. I like them all under. Like if they have to score 2 touchdowns and a field goal, give me the team total under here on the Browns.
Mike Stefanski cannot sit there on the sidelines and watch him play and not be in tank mode to keep him in the game, because there is no reason not to go back to Jameis in the second half of that game when Cincinnati was trying to let them in that game and kept giving him the ball. He's not an NFL quarterback.
He's not. He's not accurate. He's not on time. He can't really scramble or run when it's the regular season. Preseason DTR, he's fun. Regular season DTR, he's bad. So let's go team total Cleveland here under 15.5 is the number I got it at.
Mike Somich, our guest in studio every Friday. Ready, Set, Bet, and also the contest show Saturdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, right here on VSiN. Sunday night game under 47.5 could be weather.
Yeah, I'm surprised this is still sitting there on the board at 47.5. I like the under in this spot. We're expecting weather, but even more so, if you're looking at Atlanta, you're looking at Washington and how they want to try and move the football. Both of them are going to be more motivated to move it through the ground. We've seen this Washington offense regress quite a bit since the weeks where they did not punt. Now they're having much more trouble moving the football. The run game, one of those reasons. But Atlanta on the other side, it's going to be the first road game for Michael Penix. They've got 2 good running backs. You're facing a Washington defense that's not great against the run. To me, this is one of those spots where the coach's job is to really try and slow this down, be able to pull the pace back, and all of that plays toward an under. On top of it, you mentioned it, the weather, not supposed to be great in this spot as well. So let's take the under 47.5 here for Sunday Night Football.
All right. Monday night, stepping out. Now, what are you going to do? Alts here. You think it could get out of hand?
Well, I look at this game, right, and you've got a 3.5 line right now with the Lions. If they cover, let's just hypothetically say they cover 3.5, how many points do you think they win by? I will go with double digits, because this feels like it's a game where we rewind to last year. And there were 2 games that stood out for me for the Lions. The Cowboys game that they lost.
U-Haul backed up could be? Okay, go.
Well, the Cowboys game that they lost last year, and then they played the Cowboys this year, and we're running multiple plays with the offensive linemen trying to blow them out of the water. Okay. And then the San Francisco game in the playoffs. Okay. And they've been talking about this San Francisco game where, they want to go out and they want to win this. Dan Campbell wants to show everything they have. They don't care about the seeding. They don't care about the division. They want to play hard in this spot. And then you look at the Niners and all of the injuries that they have. This is just a spot where it feels like if the Lions decide they want to play, this line shouldn't be 3.5. It should be 7, 8. And in that case, I want to take alt. So give me the Lions minus 12.5 plus 307.
Oof. Not bad.
That's
not bad. Good breakdown,
it's a fun number, right?
Dan Campbell has everyone on the revenge tour. Like, he's faking his play against the Bears last week to fall down. But Dallas, he definitely. I mean, he has a long memory. Let's put it that way.
Which is a good thing for an NFL coach when he's not a superstar at offense. He's not a guru on the defensive side. But, man, can he motivate. And this is a motivation spot for this Lions team.
One team's doing the fake fumble, fall down, and the other team can't get the play in. But they did it against as well. Ben Johnson got to go to Chicago. Can you get in the hockey play?
Yeah, we got 2 of them here. Well, it's St. Louis Blues taking on the Nashville Predators. The Blues at home tonight. They're plus 123. I thought they should be minus 105, so quite a bit of value for my numbers for that game. And then another one where this is a value play for me. I'm going to take the Avalanche minus 1.5 goals plus 179 right back here at Circa, taking on the Utah Hockey Club. They won 4-1 in Utah. They lost game 2 against them, but this is a situation where you've got 2 teams rested, healthy. I'll go ahead and take the better team here and take plus 179.
Blackwood's a big upgrade from him. And another thing is, Kareem Vejmelka is not a top tier NHL. I know they've won some games here, Utah, but he is not a reliable goaltender in my mind.
And he's not. We talked about Blackwood when the trade happened. We talked about this Avs team minus 1.5 a couple weeks ago. And this is one of those teams where the talent is all there up front. The talent is there on the defensive side. They got to get the goaltending. I think Blackwood solves that problem.
All right. Enjoy the games. 11 football games tomorrow. We're back Monday. Thanks to Somich. Thanks to Chernoff. We're back with Mike Palm and Paulie on Monday. The Friday Football Invitational coming up with Humans, all the picks, and Von Tobel. They do a great job. And Chuck Edel, no surprise, kicking ass and taking names.
The Iceman cometh.